All right, it's great to have everyone on the call. We've got a bunch of people with us in Zoom. We also have a bunch of people watching live on Facebook, and I'm seeing them join the call. And as Trevor has mentioned, certainly do want to welcome all of your comments on both of those platforms. We'll certainly try to get to as many questions as we can. As Trevor mentioned, my name's Rob. I'm one of the master coaches here at Rhapsody, and we are launching this new webinar series in which we are going to dive into all kinds of different topics. We felt it was important to start with a topic that we think is pretty relevant because of some of the experiences we've been having internally, and we'll get into talking about that. A subject that is really a key to the success of your business, and we are focusing in on automation and how to not only how to do it, but to figure out what you should be automating in your business, and diving into all of the nuts and bolts of that. And I can't think of a better person to do that than the person who certainly does all the automation here at Rhapsody, and that is Eric Deschamps. He is another one of the master coaches, and he focuses in and does all of our systems, builds out the structure. If it's automated at Rhapsody, it's because Eric has been involved in it in some way, shape, or form, and makes all of our lives easier as coaches. And we'll talk about, I think he's going to share even some of those examples. And so Eric, we've had a lot of conversations about automation internally, but you have primarily been driving this in over the last number of months in particular, have taken our automation to another level. But I wonder why bring it up now? Why, when we talked about these webinars, we said this is the one we need to dive in first. Why should we even be thinking about automation in the midst of everything else that we might be thinking about in our businesses at this time?
Well, COVID aside, let me just start by saying this. It's always a good time to build strong systems and let them do the heavy lifting for you. Always a good time to automate as much of your business as possible, so that the minutia, the day-to-day important routine details can get done with very little human interaction. It's always a good time to do that. What we're seeing with the COVID context, of course, is a number of organizations that have had to lay off staff and are having to carry their client load and the delivery of their product or service with fewer hands on deck. So we have team members that are carrying a heavier load, where automation can really make a huge difference. We're also seeing other organizations who are seeing an explosion of growth because of the pandemic, and their business is growing rapidly. I mean, it spiked in the last few months. I've got one client in the security guard industry, and they added 200 sites, brand new sites that they were managing in 1 week, which meant they had to hire 400 new guards, and their admin was just drowning in details and in the paperwork necessary to make that happen. So whether you're an organization that has had to lay people off and is working with fewer people, fewer hands at play, or you're an organization like the latter I just mentioned, automation can help you. It's some of you are old enough on this call, and I'm not going to ask you to tell us how old you are, but you'll remember the $6 million man, right? Better, faster, stronger, and we're going to tell you how to build a business just like that without the $6 million budget today.
So what are some of the benefits? I recognize that for your coaching clients, you get talking about automation, why it's important, and some of the needs with the changes of staff. Why go down this? Because I imagine there's some work involved in automating a system. Why go down that road at all?
Well, it's going to make you, for sure, make you faster. There's just no two ways about it. Every organization has administrative details that they take care of internally that often falls on the hands of all important admin staff. I always say that admin staff are, they're the ones that keep the wheels moving. I mean, they handle all the day-to-day details, and you can make them faster through automation. And in some cases, as some organizations have realized, that they are even a little heavy on the admin side from a manpower perspective, simply because the work is being done old school. When there is technology available now where a lot of that can be done. So faster, more efficient, let's face it, more reliable. The automation systems, if they make a mistake, they tell you. they made a mistake. And so you catch it right away and are able to fix it. Wherever human beings are involved, I don't know about you guys, I'm sure you've made a mistake or two along the way. Things get missed, things get forgotten. And automation can help you deliver a more consistent experience right across the board, and make you more available, make you and your staff more available for the really important stuff. I think these day-to-day details that bog us down, they're important. I mean, let's face it, they're in place for a reason. Although there's often when we're working with clients, we'll ask the all-important question, why are you doing this? And does it even need to be done? Because sometimes we've just grown used to a certain way of delivering our product or service, and we're not looking at it with the eyes of an engineer, a systems engineer, to say, does this even need to be done at all? But for those tasks and functions that need to be done, they're important to the operation of the business. The more of those you can automate, the more you can free up your people for client relations, improving the client experience. You can take a lot of pressure off your staff, where now they're monitoring processes as opposed to doing all of the detail work that again can just really slow them down. There are just so many benefits. And I would say this, oftentimes, whether we're talking just creating your systems and evolving your systems, today we're focusing on the automation side of your systems and how you can get them working for you. Pay now or pay later, but you're paying one way or another. If you don't leverage these systems the way they can be, you're paying a price for that. Your people are paying a price, your organization is paying a price. And often the initial work required to analyze what you're doing, to analyze your process, to really design your process more deliberately, as opposed to just how it's evolved over time, and think both your internal experience for staff, your internal experience for yourself. I think of the single owner operator type business here, who the owner has to do everything. Right. Automation will be a godsend for you to free you up to do the more important stuff. But my encouragement to you is the importance of understanding that you're going to pay one way or another. But if you pay now and put in the time, the energy, the effort to build your systems properly and use as much automation as you can, the dividends you will get back, right. the time you will get back, the ease of work that you will experience is so worth it.
That's so true, and I think you're bang on there. You're gonna pay, and so take care of the pain now, and
right.
And enjoy the benefits of the automation. Now I know that there's some questions are going to start to come up in the chat window here. I know Trevor is monitoring our Facebook, and we'll copy over any questions there as well. But before I kind of open it up to more questions, and again, encourage people just to put their questions in the chat window, and we'll dive into those as we can. Maybe give us some examples, because I think sometimes when we talk about automation, it's kind of like when we talk about systems. For a lot of business owners, they're kind of like, where do I start? What systems to work on? And it helps to get some examples. So we've been doing a lot of automation here at Rhapsody. You've been leading that, as I've mentioned. So maybe give a couple examples of how it's benefited us. Some examples of some automation.
Well, I'll for the purpose of today's call, because I know we have limited time, I'll focus in on two key areas that are working really well for us. And one is on client onboarding. So how you welcome a new client into the business and make sure that you deliver that consistent experience every time. And the other will be the client feedback loops that we've built in, where we're getting feedback on every single engagement so that we can get better all the time. Now, both of these things are things that when we talk to clients about designing, let's talk about the client experience for a moment. Listen, you may have heard this before. In today's economy, in today's marketplace, it's not what you do that matters, because think about it for a moment. Are you the only one offering that product or service? Probably not. If you're like most businesses, you're probably in a flooded marketplace. You've got tons of competitors offering a very similar deal. So it's not what you do that matters, but how you do it. It's the quality of that client experience that can really set you apart, differentiate you from all of your competition, and create those loyal raving fans that keep coming back for more and bring others with them, right? There's nothing better than creating positive word of mouth, and that comes through a great experience that's evolving all the time. The problem with creating that experience is it takes time, it takes effort, it takes work. And when I talk to leaders about this, I've never had a client push back and say, no, you're wrong. I don't think client experience matters. They've always responded by saying, I know, and I've been wanting to do this, and I've been wanting to add this feature, and I've been wanting to communicate more regularly with my clients. That everyone agrees to this conceptually. But when it comes to the actual hard work of doing it consistently with every single client, without systems and without automation, it's very, very difficult. So we've created automation in our business now that from the simple, a simple form. As a coach, one of our practitioners welcomes a new client to the business. They simply fill out an online form, and that online form triggers all of our systems that are now talking to each other to create and to perform all of those important functions. Everything from setting them up in our database, setting them up in our financial software, even auto-generating the first invoice, right? So it's ready to be sent, to communicating with the client and welcoming them on board, sending those emails directly to the client, notifying team members when the baton is being handed from one person to another, right? All of this is happening automatically now. Usually setting up a brand new client would take a support team member at least an hour's worth of work to walk through all the different steps for a brand new client. Now, literally, it takes less than a minute to fill out the form, and our coaches were already providing that information. And within about 15 minutes, with no one doing anything else, all of that work is completed. And the experience is consistent. Every single client will get that welcome email. Every single coach will get the notifications that they need to make sure they don't miss anything.
Eric, I'll interrupt you for a second, because I think the other piece that this fits into on that is it also keeps, you and I, of course, are doing a lot of this internally. It keeps a lot of the back and forth, because of course with a form you can make certain fields mandatory, so that they can't hit submit until those things are filled out. So when we're doing the support work, we don't have to chase after a coach to get additional information. So the efficiency and the speed in which we're doing things increases as well. Sorry, I jumped in because I thought that fit well right there. So
that's a great point. And interrupt me anytime. Anybody on this call is going to get the sense from me very quickly that I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. And what's interesting, yeah, a little bit, yeah. And what's interesting is I am not wired from a personality perspective to be a systems guy. I never was for much of my earlier days, my earlier career. And my other careers was more the big picture thinker, more the visionary type, and more the communicator and all that stuff. And yet adding this skill set has been a godsend. It's something that I'm incredibly excited about, because I see the benefits right away. So you may have to interrupt me because I get going, because I could talk about this stuff for hours, not just the few minutes.
So then let me ask you about the feedback one, because I think that one is, can be relevant to everyone, in the sense of what happens? A client finishes a service with Rhapsody. What's the automation that takes place?
All right, now, most of you are familiar with a CRM, a client relationship management system. It's a database that tracks all of your contacts, and you can use to email, subsets of those contacts and communicate with them. And if used properly, a CRM can be very, very powerful. The problem, again, is usually user error, where data is not being entered in the same every time. So when you try to run reports, they come out all sideways, and you're not really getting the information you need. So again, with automation, the information is being entered the way we want it to every single time. And when it comes to client feedback, if someone is engaging with us for a short-term experience, as soon as that short-term experience it's as simple as logging in to their record, adding a simple tag. So it literally takes less than 30 seconds to do this. And they will then be added to a campaign that reaches out to them. And some of you that are clients have experienced this, right? You've actually given us some feedback through this automated system. It will reach out to them up to 3 times if they haven't responded in the first other 2 attempts, asking them simply to rate us 1 through 10 on the quality of our service and how likely they'd be to refer us. Anybody that rates us 8 or higher gets a thank you email with the testimonial they actually provided us as part of that feedback process, copied and pasted into the email automatically back to them with a link directly to our Google review page and our Facebook page, asking them if they wouldn't mind just copying and pasting that testimonial right into our Google review page or our Facebook page. So not only are we getting great information from clients, finding out if they were fully satisfied with the service or not, and we can talk if we have time about, there's been a couple of instances where we got low scores, only twice. And in both cases, we were able to find out early, because I don't know if most of you know this, people, if they're unhappy with your service, they usually just leave quietly. They don't actually tell you. So you don't learn. But because of this system, we found out about their dissatisfaction, we're able to address it, and then they gave us a 10 out of 10 rating as a result of the experience. But this is happening with every single client, and we're generating regular reviews to our Google review page and our Facebook page without any additional work. The system is doing all of that.
And that's
Many of our
beauty.
clients are, yeah, sorry.
Just
let me talk about the ongoing real quick. The ongoing clients that we have, these are clients that are coaching with us over the long term. The system will reach out to them every 6 months and ask for their feedback automatically. Again, the same process. And so we're able to constantly be mining business intelligence from our clients about how we can improve and how we can get better. And that feedback is sent automatically then to the relevant coach, so they have it directly, and without any user, other than that tag that got added at the beginning, the automation's doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, Eric, you shared one time with me a quote, I forget the author, feedback is the breakfast of champions.
That's right. Yeah, feedback is a breakfast of champions. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the notion that every organization, and so to create a really simple way of generating that feedback with very little work on our end, and again, for every business owner, by automating something like feedback, gives you the opportunity to continually be hearing from your clients, both the current and past clients. And that way you're able to respond and pivot. I think it's such an absolutely core one. Let's jump into a couple questions just because I want to make sure we have some time for a few of those. So one of them, I'm just scrolling back here a bit. Jesse, you had a great question around how do you figure out there is a lot of work to automating a process. How do you decide where to start? Which system to start with?
That's a great question, Jesse, and great to have you on the call, brother. So two things to look at. One are what are the highest leverage areas for improving your client experience? And in our experience working with literally hundreds of companies and hundreds of leaders, the two greatest areas for improving your client experience are the client onboarding process and when they exit, when they finish, when you wrap up your work with them, getting feedback and making sure that they were happy. So those are two areas that I recommend you could start with. If that seems a little too daunting, then I go to the next sort of usual suspects. And where are you seeing mistakes regularly? What parts of the daily routine are stressing you out the most? Where are you seeing the greatest inconsistencies? And this is where a conversation, for those of you that are clients that are on the call or watching by Facebook, this is a great conversation to have with your coach. Right? Help me explore where let's make a hit list here and create a list of maybe 5 to 10 areas that we could look at over the next several months of introducing some level of automation to make them easier. So either you start with high leverage areas that will always win you big gains, which are client onboarding, client feedback, and the other is what's causing you the most pain, and start there.
That's great. There's a great comment from Dave on the Facebook chat where he observes around the idea of talking about, I think, with the feedback form, the customer feedback form, making that as easy as you can. I'm paraphrasing him, but to make the experience as easy as you can to fill out that form and not, this cumbersome, difficult thing, it is so critical. It's I love the wording that he put here. It's to make sure that it's the customer's interest that is paramount, not the business.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that, I think the one that you have created that we use is so simple and so easy. And again, as you mentioned, there's a number of people on the call that have experienced that firsthand and have filled it out. It really is not difficult to do, which is why we have seen such an uptick in feedback forms. Catherine asked a great question around just the technology side of this. What do you do? You're not that tech savvy. What options are available if somebody wants to pursue automation?
Obviously, the more tech savvy you are, the easier it will be to do this kind of work. The more familiar you are with the systems that you use. Let me say this, often we're using multiple systems. Most businesses are. They might have one piece of software for finance. They might have another for the sharing of files and information and shared calendars. They might have a CRM. And these are typically all independent. Very few organizations or industries can have a one-size-fits-all solution that does it all for you. And in my experience, the ones that do it all poorly and are often very limited because they're trying to do too many things. But none of us want to have multiple systems to manage. So I'm always a big fan of keep it to as few as possible and make sure they're the right solutions for you. And then with the automation, with systems work, you can actually get them talking to each other so that data entry in one is repeated right across the board. If you're less tech savvy, then obviously getting some help. There are folks that do this kind of work, and we're happy to make some recommendations. Nicole of Teradare is on the call today, and she's a systems specialist this way. This is her area of expertise, and she's been fantastic in helping us. And so feel free, you could certainly reach out to her, but there are folks that do this. And yes, it's going to cost you money. Yes, it's going to require an investment. But I can tell you, when, again, through our experience with COVID is when it first hit, we saw a downturn, a lot of clients that wanted to go on hold or pause because they weren't sure how this was going to impact their business. So immediately, like many other professional service industries, we had to take some measures to protect the business, and we had to lay off a couple of people. We have now been able to fully automate, well, I would say about automate those two roles about 90%, which to the business means a savings of almost $100,000 in salaries on an annual basis. So a small investment of a few $1,000 to get this set up, and it's putting us in a position where we're much healthier, much stronger, much more resilient. So again, it's this whole notion of pay now or pay later, but it's worth the investment. But get help. If you're not tech savvy, this stuff will just drive you nuts.
Yeah,
right?
I think
get
you're absolutely right. And yeah, it's always being smart to know what you should be working on and what you should be bringing somebody in to work on for sure. Tone's got a great question on there, but I'm going to suggest this with his question because it probably could. There's a lot of depth to it, Tone. It's a good thing you have a coaching session coming up really soon with a Rhapsody coach. This will be a great conversation to have, perhaps as early as tomorrow. So I think exactly, he's got the time in going there. And Deborah has a great question that I'm sure a lot of people on the call or that will be watching the video later on will be asking is, can we share the examples of ours, the feedback forms, and perhaps we can create something that we can make available to people as well. Last question, Eric, and then we're going to just move into start to wrap this up. When's the best time to start automating in your business?
Well, there's an old saying that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time, today. Right? The best time is to start, again, find the high leverage area or the high level of pain area of your business and start now, a little bit at a time. We didn't get to where we are now overnight, and it was the automation was added to what was already very strong systems internally. So that was going, we had that going for us. It was a question of getting them talking to each other and automating the flow of work so that now literally the time and energy that's saved is tremendous. So it's the time is now. And for those who would say, but I don't have the time, I hear this all the time when we talk systems. If you don't have time to do it right, you must have time to do it over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Well, listen, we've got two types of people on the call right now. We certainly have some people that are currently working with a Rhapsody coach. I'm having some fun with Tone there a moment ago, and to be able to have these conversations. And I do encourage people to have these conversations with their coach to be able to guide through. But what would you say, or, you know, whether it's somebody who is currently with a coach or somebody who is maybe just joining us, part of the Meant for More community, is connected to us, what would be some next steps in your, give us some ideas around next steps?
Let me just say this to those of you who are asking about the sharing. Can you see our feedback process? Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we don't want you just to see it. We'll let you experience it. So if you send us an email, and Rob will give us that information in a moment. We'll set you up on our CRM, and we won't add you to a mailing list or anything, but we'll get you receiving the system. You'll see how it works. You'll get to interact with it, so get a real feel for it. For the folks that are on this call that are Rhapsody clients, I already mentioned it. Schedule a conversation about this with your coach as soon as possible, and with their help, try to figure out where to get started. Create a hit list, because that's often the biggest step. For those of you that are not clients, we're offering a special service as a result of today's webinar to help you get started on this. We call it a success strategy. You will receive a full assessment of your business. And let me tell you, there's no better time to do that than now, given how COVID has changed so much for individuals, leaders, and their organizations. You will get a full assessment of your business, a powerful assessment that we use with all of our clients, and a 75-minute conversation with a coach to debrief it, to help you create an action plan to get in motion, and to take your business to the next level. If you're on this call today, it's because you've managed to at least stabilize your business and your doors are still open. But we want to do more than just survive. We want to thrive. So this whole program is only $395. It's a very, very small investment, and you can get started as soon as tomorrow or today even. And so that's what I would encourage people to do. Either talk to your coach or get a coach involved and get some help.
Perfect. So what you'll have noticed is that on my screen, what I've done is put my email address right there. It's rob@rhapsodystrategies.com. What we're going to encourage you to do is that if you're interested in doing the success strategy, to send an email to me, send it to my email address. Just put success or automation in the subject line. And as Eric mentioned, if there is a specific coach that you are connected to, we want to make sure that we connect that person to you for doing that success strategy call. But we'll get that all set up. And the same thing as Eric has pointed out, if you'd like to experience the feedback form, same thing. Send me an email. Maybe put feedback form in the subject line, so I know that it's the difference, and we'll set you up and make sure that you get sent it. And you can even go so far as to leave a feedback around the webinar and how much you appreciate it. It'd be a great way you could leave a review for the webinar. See what I did there, Eric?
That's very good. Good job.
But I encourage you to do that, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're seeing it online. Just feel free to do that. We're going to be doing these. Typically, we're going to be running a webinar once a month. We're going to very much keep to the focus of 30 minutes. Next month, we have Steve Osmond, who is also one of our master coaches. He's out in Calgary. Steve, maybe do a quick little wave so everybody can see you on the call. Oh, look at him throwing up the hands there. He is going to be talking about how to get more out of your teams. Again, many of you have either had to reduce the size of your team, or you're looking to grow teams, or there's changes to your team, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to be able to accomplish the business goals if you with that team, get them working efficiently and effectively. So Steve is going to help us with that and give us some pointers on that, and I think it's going to be another great call. So please let others know. If you've connected some other business people, you'll see us start promoting it. We'll send out emails and all of that. I encourage you to communicate with people and let them know about the calls coming up.
If I could say one last thing, yes, just before you sign off. I mean, the reason that these two topics are top of mind for us, listen, the companies that are going to thrive in this new economy are the ones that evolve their systems and develop their people. They're the ones that are going to have that competitive edge. So hopefully you can join us on next month's webinar as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month. Have a great day.
Thanks everyone.